Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to the house of David, which is the elect. And, in this lesson, I want to do a quick, Lord willing, exhortation, to the hopeful elect, right? The hopeful, starting with the 144,000, all right, the governing body, right, of the kingdom to come, all right, and as we are at the forefront of this ministry, being the ones who the Heavenly Father through Yahawashi set up to be the examples, to the flock, we have a responsibility, to uphold, okay, and the way that we, carry ourselves and, conduct ourselves is important because, we are interviewing, so to speak, or prepping to be judges of, the world, right, for eternity, okay, and, that's not something, light, okay, that's that's the heaviest, office, right, the heaviest title that, a person can have, underneath Yahawashi and, King David, right, really, well, even with, along with King David, the 144 will be in their order, okay, so, it's important that we are, mindful of the role that we are, prepping or trying to achieve, because you have to, think about it as in Yahawashi is, watching us, right? The angels, they're watching our, decision making, right? They're watching our actions and our reactions to things. Okay. And, ultimately we know it is already predestined, right? But, for us, we don't know whether or not we make the cut. Okay. Because you think of it like a draft, right? In the NFL, right? You have, certain teams that, invite certain players to, their facilities, right? They, have them do, private workouts, and, they interview them, right? They get all of their credentials, right? They test their measurements and all these things. And the draftee, right? The athlete, he doesn't really know whether or not if he is going to be drafted by a particular team, right? They may, and of course a draft, players, they want to be drafted as high as possible. Okay. Because, there's a certain prestige that comes with that. But at the end of the day, the decision is up to the, the team, right? The general manager, the head coach, et cetera, the owner, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you may have certain players that are certain teams that, target certain individuals, right? Like, we are in need of a quarterback, so we want, the best quarterback available. All right. But just because a quarterback, you're in need of a quarterback and a quarterback is available, doesn't mean, that you're automatic. And if you're a quarterback, doesn't mean you're automatically going to be taken. Right. And the perfect example of that is what, just happened with Shedeur Sanders. There was various teams that passed up on him that were quarterback needy. And it was because of, his character. Right. And wasn't so much because of his ability. Right. But it was more so of his character. Right. That's the rhetoric. Right. That's what they're saying. But, regardless of that, and using that as an example for us in its truth, that's the same mindset that we have to, take as well, because, yeah, we may know, the breakdowns and the understanding of the scriptures, right, and being able to, go precept upon precept, right? Skillfully dividing the word of truth, right? We may have those abilities, right? But your character also plays a major position in whether or not you will be worthy to be a judge. Okay, so that is why the scripture speaks about examining yourself, right? It speaks about, certain qualities that are necessary to be an overseer. Now, when you get that in the book of Titus, Titus chapter 1, verse 7, it says, for a bishop, right? And that word bishop goes into an overseer, right? Which is synonymous, with a steward, right? Synonymous with, a shepherd. Remember, as Peter said, that we are supposed to be shepherds, right? Over the flock of the Most High, right? Flock of, the Most High. Let me pull that up real quick before I get this. In Titus, the book of 1 Peter, chapter 5, verse 1, it says, the elders which are among you, I exhort, right? Who am also an elder and a witness of the sufferings of Hamashiach, and a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of the Most High, which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. Neither as being lords over the Most High's heritage, but being examples to the flock. Okay? And that is the key, right? We're not to use the office, of being a teacher, right? Or being, a leader of a church, or, somebody that is looked up as, as an overseer, all right, or a what's the word? Basically somebody that is being looked up to, because being a teacher, that you automatically have that position as being, somebody that people look up to, right? When you have the sheep watching your videos to be fed, then in essence they're looking up to you as spiritual leaders. Okay. And once again, of course, we are, that's all in a rank, right? There's an order to that, but nonetheless, right? Those men that are teachers, that if they are part of the elect, then those are going to be the ones that will be the judges of the kingdom of God, right? In the kingdom to come, when Yahawashi returns, right? Those that he put those crowns on, those are crowns that are incorruptible. So, excuse me. So there is, a way, right? A certain qualities rather, that we are supposed to, exude. All right. And those qualities are supposed to be used as an example unto those that are, following, after us. As Paul said, be followers of me as I am of Hamashiach, right? When ultimately, we're all following Yahawashi, right? So that's why in verse 4, it says, and when the chief shepherd shall appear, which is who? Yahawashi, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away, right? And that's that position of being, rulers, right? Judges, kings, priests, on the earth in the kingdom of heaven, which is the kingdom of Israel. All right. So when we go back to Titus chapter 1, verse 7, it says a bishop, which once again that word is overseer, right? And when you go into the definition, it says a man charged with the duty of seeing that things to be done by others are done rightly. Any curator, guardian, or superintendent. So us being in that position, right, we're charged by who? Yahawashi, right? That seeing that things are done correctly. And it's not in a sense of pointing the finger and telling somebody, do it this way. No, you do it that way. And you do it now. You're really supposed to do it by example, right? Leading by an example. All right. This is why Titus continues. Paul continues, because he's writing this to Titus, continues to say, a bishop must be blameless as the steward of the Most High. Okay. And that word steward is a manager of a household or of household affairs. Right. And what is the household? The body of Yahawashi. Okay. So and a manager is somebody that they manage the body. So it says, reading on, and if you're managing, anything, right? If you're a manager of a company, of a department, then you are responsible for the success or the failure of, whatever you're managing. And that is going to be really, right, the success is really going to be predicated based off of how well you are a manager. Okay. They always say that the department or a team is only as good as its leader. All right. That's why, going back to the football analogy, a quarterback, right, being the leader of the team, it's not so much in just in his ability as a quarterback, but his ability to lead a team, right? And that's why, you have guys like Tom Brady, which didn't have the best physical skill sets, but he was a good leader. Okay, a great leader, leading, to the team to many victories. So that is the mindset, that is the position that we are supposed to be in as well. And this is what Yahawashi is, reviewing. This is what, metaphorically, this is what our journey is, under the scope right now, being looked at as, right? How well are you able to lead and judge, right? And exude these qualities that would be, acceptable, as, being a permanent judge in his kingdom. Right. And that's why, Solomon, which we know who that was or is, when he became king, what did he pray for? All right. He prayed for wisdom to be able to judge Israel. See, he didn't pray for things that would make him, rich and things that he would, as it says back in Titus, where were we? Salakia, I just lost it. It says, as a steward of God, not self-willed, right? So Solomon didn't pray for things, self-willedly, if that's a word, right? Which that word, self-willed, means self-pleasing, right? Self-pleasing, that is arrogant self-will. So Solomon didn't pray for things for him to be, self-pleasing in. He prayed for a quality, all right, or qualities that would basically benefit the whole nation of Israel. All right. So this is what Paul is telling Titus, that when Titus goes and set up these churches, and he sets up the elders, the elders have to have these qualities. So it says, not self-willed, not soon to angry, not given to wine, nor striker, nor given to filthy lucre. So these are the don'ts, right? These are the attributes that you cannot have, okay, as being an overseer, a leader, a manager, right? Ultimately being, an hopeful 144,000, right? Which, hey, if you either 144,000 or the 1/3, as we always hear in Babylon, or, even of the great multitude that's throughout the four corners that get delivered, we all ultimately get in that same penny, which is salvation, right? That's why, King David said, hey, I'll be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord. All right. And that's a mindset. Remember, this is King David, which is second second in command, or third in command, rather. Right. First underneath Yahawashi. But the mindset that he had was of great humility. Right. They even talked about how David, that he went in and out amongst the people. Right. He was personable. Right. He wasn't somebody that was highly, thought himself, high above everybody else, right? Thought himself too good to be amongst the common folk, right? David was, he was meek, he was humble, he had humility, and even Yahawashi, even more so, right? As it says in the book of Matthew, the 11th chapter, I believe, Yahawashi said, learn of me, right? Let's pull that up real quick. If it can load up. Yep. Matthew 11, verse 29 says, take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. See? So Yahawashi was meek and lowly of heart. It said that your king, came riding on an ass, right? He washed the disciples' feet. He said that the greatest among you must be the servant. Those are the qualities of an eternal judge. Okay. A judge for all eternity. That's the qualities, right? Somebody that is, that has preference, or should I say preferring, one another, as it says in the book of, was that Romans, right? Have honor, preferring one another. And when you go into that word preferring, it means to what? Put another before you. Okay. That's the mindset. So you can't be self-willed, not soon angry. All right. Imagine being a king for all of eternity, and you're the mad king, right? Was it Game of Thrones, right? The mad king. You just always up, you just crazy, right? Hey, that's why in the book of Proverbs it talks about, not being swift to anger, right? Hasty. Those that are hasty in spirit. Okay, those qualities are undesirable until Yahawashi. And he'll put you in the position to be in a leader, right? A head. And if you don't, get rid of those undesirable qualities, then he's going to get rid of you. All right? Because the Lord is not going to give, he's not going to give his stewardship. All right. He's not going to give stewardship to ones that he knows have these undesirable qualities. Right. He's not going to set up a judge to rule in his kingdom forever when they're, hasty in spirit. Right. When they're soon to angry. Right. When they're self-willed. You see? So reading on, or when it says given to wine. Right. You can't. You can't be somebody that is a drunkard, right? Somebody that can't go without alcohol. All right. Now we all are in, hell, right? And we know that, liquor, eases the hell that we catch, right? But at the end of the day, we're supposed to really lean upon the scriptures for comfort. Okay, because wine really, or liquor really, is something that is for the flesh. All right, it doesn't do, it doesn't give you spiritual insight. It doesn't give you spiritual comfort. All right, and being spiritual people, or being, having a spiritual mindset, you have to look to the Spirit for comfort, right? The Ruach Quadash, which is the Holy Spirit, which is also known as what? The Comforter. That is where our comfort really is supposed to lie in. It's not supposed to be trying to make provisions for the flesh for comfort, because in this life, we're going to have trouble, right? Yahawashi said that. In this world, you should have tribulation, you should have trouble. But in him, you should have peace. So the peace that we look for really ultimately comes from, the Spirit. Now, not to say once again that, the liquor, drinking doesn't help, the infirmities, just the stress sometimes, but that's not something you're supposed to lean on for, peace of mind. Okay. And not just, just liquor either. That could be any vice. It could be any type of fleshly comfort, that could become a crutch. None of these things that is for the flesh should be a crutch. For us that are spiritual. That's what people of this world do. That's why you have, alcoholics of this world, drunkards of this world, because they don't have a spiritual avenue to go to, to give them peace, to give them rest, to give them a hope. Okay, so that is why it says not given to wine. And when you go into that word given, it means greedy, right? It says nor a striker, so somebody that is quick to fight, right? Quick to want to be contentious, right? Be problematic, be argumentative. And it says not given to filthy lucre, right? And that is what says not given to or not greedy for money. Because once again, Solomon, he didn't pray for riches, but what did he end up being? Right? The richest, king, okay, of that time, right? Could have been, because I know they say Mansa Musa also, was the richest king, but we know that Solomon had an insurmountable amount of wealth. All right, so he didn't pray for that though. Once again, he prayed for something that would benefit his ability to judge, so that it would benefit the welfare of Israel. Okay. Matter of fact, speaking of welfare, let me get that. In the book of Wisdom of Solomon, it says, verse 6, verse 24, but the multitude of the wise is the welfare of the world. See that? So the multitude of the wise, which would be the collective governing body, right? Yeah, the 144,000, right? Yahawashi, right? And the governing body with him. That is the multitude of the wise, being the judges of the earth, is going to be the welfare of the world. See, that is how the world, the whole entire planet Earth, is going to be in a paradise form. They shall learn war no more, right? It says what? That when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, because you have wise rulers, you have wise judges. You see, it says, and a wise king is the upholding of the people. So if we are ultimately seeking to be, the kings of the earth, right? Being the judges of the earth, having the dominion over, all, nations, then that starts now. That mindset starts now. That is why Yahawashi said the kingdom of heaven is within you. Okay, the kingdom of heaven is within you. So how you are, and then really that's to the elect, because only the elect, right? Only the 144,000 are going to have these qualities. Okay, the 144,000, if that's, we're striving to hope to be, to making our call and election sure, we have to understand that that means that we are hoping to be the best spirits that the Most High through Yahawashi created. Out of all of the billions of spirits that have, that were created for the earth, we're hoping to be the best ones. And if that's the spirit that you're hoping to have and be, then you, me, and I'm not saying like you, but we need to conduct ourselves in that fashion, which means that we are supposed to act differently. We're supposed to be separate from the people of this world and the behaviors of this world, right? And that is why Paul is speaking about the equalities of an overseer of the body of Yahawashi. Okay, these qualities are qualities that are supposed to supersede the people of this world and their qualities, right? That's why the Yahawashi said, we are the light of the world. Okay, so we're supposed to let our light shine so that men can see it and give glory unto the Most High, Ba'ashem Yahawashi. Verse 8, back in Titus 1, it says, but a lover of hospitality, a lover of good men, sober, just, holy, temperate. Okay, so being a lover of hospitality, meaning what? You are hospitable, right? You are, as it says, fond of guests. You let to the fellow believers, the rest of the body, the brotherhood. You are comfortable and willing to entertain them in your house. Okay, you're not somebody like, nah, I don't want him over here. I don't want to. I don't want these. I don't want that guy here. I don't want this guy here. Nah, you open your house for the brotherhood. Okay. Because, hey, the time is going to come where, some brothers might end up losing their place to live. And you may have, extra space. And once again, these are all tests, so to speak, right? These are all tests, so to speak, that when it comes to what Yahawashi is looking for, he puts these things in position, right? Put these circumstances in position to see how you're going to react. How are you going to respond? Are you going to respond as 144,000 would respond? Or are you going to respond as a person of this world? Because that is the difference in whether or not you're going to be deemed, crowned worthy to be a judge in his kingdom, or you are not. Okay. So it says a lover of good men, which is it says of those that are good, right? Sober, which is of a sound mind. It says in one senses. Self-controlled, curbing one's desires and impulses. Temperate. So temperate and self-controlled, temperate and sober is basically the same word, right? But temperate goes into being able to control your appetites, right? Controlling the fleshly lusts that you may have. Okay, and that is also very, very vital to being a judge. Okay, you're having to be rationally minded, right? Not being sensual, Okay, not being intemperate, not just acting off of impulse. These type of qualities and traits are not one that is befitting of a judge. Okay, and these things is what Yahawashi is looking at. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I just wanted to touch on that. And Lord willing, this was edifying unto the elect, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahawashi, Ba'ashem Rakak Kodash. Shalom.